So let's explain NMN for people. It's
Okay.
precursor for NAD plus.
Right. So NAD is critical to energy production in all cells, vital. And levels of NAD tend to go down as we age. It's an absolute requirement for cellular health and life. You need it. Some years ago, as David Sinclair came on this podcast and discussed that his laboratory is a tenured professor of genetics, Harvard Medical School, and other laboratories are starting to explore stimulating the NAD pathway as a tool for extending lifespan in mice. And that there were already some data from yeast. There are now some clinical trials in humans. You can't just take NAD, or you can, but it doesn't get into cells very easily. Here I'm painting with a broad brush. But there are basically two ways that you can tickle this pathway, increase NAD. One is to take NMN, right? Some people will try different B vitamins, but NMN, which the idea is that it gets into cells and is converted into NAD. Some people are more proponents of taking NR. Okay, so and the end product is thought to be the same. However, there's a lot of controversy about whether or not NAD or NR are better. NR is what was initially sold under the brand name Elysium, with a unbelievable cast of scientific advisors, Nobel Prize winners. This is a very East Coast oriented thing, but a colleague of mine right downstairs from me at Stanford School of Medicine, who has a Nobel Prize for discovering the structure of RNA, Roger Kornberg. His daddy discovered RNA, Arthur Kornberg. There was literally an ad of him holding a True Niagen bottle like this, and it's like, okay, I started paying attention to this. NR and NMN are taken in oral form in capsules. Some people are giving NAD infusions out there. This is a more expensive boutique thing. But after David started talking about NMN, a lot of people, including myself, started experimenting with it. Now, just to take a step back, I know a lot of people out there are like, if there isn't a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial, random trial, then why would you ever take something? And then there are a lot of people like David or me or a lot of people out there who think, well, if there are some mouse data or something safe, why wouldn't I try? Right? Because when it comes to longevity, nobody wants to be in the control group. Right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
right.
It's like, so this is a highly contentious field. But then what's happened is, so you can take NMN as a sublingual powder, or
which seems to be more effective, NMN or NR?
Okay, there are people who will argue NR.
Are there people that take both?
I was taking both for a while.
How'd you feel?
I felt like I had more energy. Now, it's subjective. It's an N1 thing. But I still take NMN sublingually. I take a pretty high dose. So the recommendation was anywhere from 500 milligrams to about a gram and a half.
When you say sublingually, are you
take a powder, put it
it
under my tongue.
No, how are you getting this powder?
So should I tell you how it was banned and how I'm still getting it? Or I was buying it. You could buy it from Renew by Science.
And now it's banned?
Yeah, I have no relationship to Renew by Science.
But now it's banned officially?
Yeah. So what happened was this last year, something was sent to the FDA. There's a company called Metro International Biotech, sometimes just referred to as Metro Biotech. This is a company that has a trial. They're studying something similar to NMN. It's a slight variation on NMN, and it's an experimental drug. And the way the FDA works is if something is being explored as an experimental potential prescription drug or pharmaceutical compound, it cannot be sold as a supplement. So it's a question of what went in first. Now, this happened a few years ago for something called NAC, N-acetylcysteine.
Yeah.
And NAC is still available despite it initially getting banned. And I'll tell you how it was rescued from that. So it turns out that Metro International Biotech is a company that has a pretty impressive advisory board. Li Wei Tsai from MIT, who I know, Alzheimer's researcher, some other folks. David Sinclair is part of the company. It's either his company or he's certainly on the head of the advisory board or on the advisory board. That's what the website says. So there are a lot of people that are a bit inflamed, if you will, because this thing was popularized through the discussion of NMN and its potential virtues. And then now the FDA sent out a ruling early this year that supplement companies cannot sell it. Many supplement companies responded to that and said, okay, we won't sell it. Other companies, such as Renew by Science, we'll see what happens after this podcast, have continued to sell it. If you go on there this morning, you could buy NMN. So the FDA...
I want to buy some before this podcast hits the air.
Yeah, I have a boatload. I'll give you some too. And it's clean. So the bags of it are the best way to go because you can buy it in pretty high volume in the bags or canisters. And I personally because I'll tell you the results that I experienced, which I really liked. I take about 2 grams per morning under my tongue. Definite increase in subjective feeling of increase in energy.
And you believe that sublingual is the way to go as opposed to taking it in oral form in pills?
Yeah. And that's because Atia, who, again, Peter, forgive me if I'm misspeaking here, but Atia was like, there's no way that's going to get into your cells, taking his capsules. And I said, what about sublingually? He's like, I just don't see how it could happen. And
but it's been proven that it gets in through IV.
Right, it gets in through IV, and there are also electrophoretic patches, some NAD patches. I managed to stock up on those. I can send you some of those. I have a huge cache of those.
Patches?
So this is a patch you put on, and it's slow release of NAD. Yeah, it's got 2 electrodes, and you just put it.
Boy.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
That's some robot shit.
So Lex Friedman, who takes no supplements, he lives on meat, Athletic Greens, Element, and mint tea.
Well. Yeah. Those are all good.
And
Element's a good supplement. And Athletic Greens is awesome.
Yeah. So people are upset because they feel like they were turned on to this stuff, and then it's now
right.
So this
now
could soon be a
drug.
Prescription drug. Now, keep in mind that the resveratrol thing was similar in the sense that there was a variation on resveratrol that was patented and sold to a company, and that sort of didn't pan out or is still a work in progress, and you can still buy resveratrol. That's not a problem because it was different enough. So the FDA decided to let NAC stay on the market because many, many people wrote letters to the FDA saying, this is ridiculous, this is of value, and it was out as a supplement. You can't do this.
What's the benefits of NAC?
NAC is, again, in these metabolic pathways for metabolic health. This isn't my area of expertise, so I don't want to talk out of turn here. And I don't know the specific details of why people are taking it. I don't take that. So part of the reason I think it's healthy to have this conversation is to understand how this stuff happens. NMN could soon be a prescription drug that you can only get with a prescription. And then I think Metro International Biotech will likely hold the patent. If people are interested in certain compounds remaining on market, they should definitely write to the FDA. The FDA, as much as that's a mysterious, big stone block kind of company, very opaque to us, I think they listen when things happen in large volume. And so I'm certainly going to write letters. And I think that keeping NMN on the market as a supplement would be wonderful for many people that want to take it. Now, the folks who are involved with NR companies are delighted because for them, this is like, again, I'm not going to get into the debate of what's better, NR, NMN, because I just don't have the expertise to parse that. There are other people that are better suited to do that. But the people that work on NR are thinking like, this is great. Like, let this whole NMN thing pan out because it's a market competition.
Does NR have a shelf life? Like, does NR, like, if you like have a jar of that stuff from a year ago, is it still good?
I have to imagine it is. I didn't refrigerate my True Niagen. And I liked True Niagen. I experienced the same effects. Again, I have no relationship to that company. They're not podcast sponsor. They don't pay me a dime, et cetera. The problem is it's very expensive to take the kind of dosages that I'm taking. And whereas with...
You think high dosages are the way to go?
I do.
Yeah. Why is that?
I just didn't experience much of a subjective effect at low dosages.
So something like Elysium...
That's same.
Like how much were you taking of that?
I was getting up to 1.5 grams.
How many pills is that?
I was up to like 7 or 8 pills, I think. I don't quite recall. But I will say with NMN, a couple of things happened. First of all, energy, my recovery from workouts, much better. I had to take it early day because it was giving me a lot of energy. And then I'm not into my nails and hair, frankly. I'm not one of those. When my hair which is starting to go, I'm just going to let it go. But I did notice like my hair and nails are growing at a ridiculous rate. And then I came off it just as a control experiment, slowed down again. So it was really interesting. I think there's something there in cellular growth pathways.
Interesting.
And I didn't change anything else. I was doing blood work. I still do blood work regularly. So, is it going to make me live longer? I don't know. But I don't know how I'm going to, the day I die, I won't know whether or not I would have lived shorter or longer.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's like how do you feel now is what's important.
Yeah. So I really like the sublingual NMN.